Hello and welcome to This Is.
Today we're here at our fine sponsor, Micro Center, where we're going to be ranking every PlayStation ever on a tier list. You might ask yourself, why would you do that? Because we like arguing.
We want to look at the best, the worst, the mediumist,
the mid. So let's start out with the PlayStation 5 Slim. Okay, I didn't actually mean to grab that first. So the PS5 Slim just came out literally like a week or two ago.
Yeah.
And it is, to borrow a phrase from this young hip kid over here, the mediumist of medium. There's nothing wrong with this Slim. The problem is that it's not great. Out of all like the Slim versions of the PlayStation, this has got to be the worst, right? PS4 Slim was better than this. PS3 Slim was better than this.
lackluster. I think is a better word than worst. We can go
D.
Okay, so for our eagle-eyed viewers, you might notice we've already done this tier list.
I'm probably going to completely contradict all of my opinions on that, but maybe not.
Well, I'm not going to contradict mine on PS3 Slim. All right.
If you can cast your mind back to the year 2009, the PS3 was in a little bit of a rough place. The fat PS3, while it wasn't quite as unreliable as the 360, still had some real issues, and importantly was still enormously expensive. So the PS3 Slim came along, knocked the price down significantly, but also this has zero PS2 backwards compatibility at all, right? But it was so much cheaper, it was so much more reliable. I would argue that the PS3 Slim is kind of still a good version of the PS3, even all these years later. I would say fairly high. Maybe not like, certainly like S or something, but like, I'd say like B?
Yeah. You know what? All right.
It was good. It was good.
Like, I can't argue with you on that one.
You know what I can tell you?
Yeah.
That'll actually solidify my thoughts on this matter. You know, when we talk about a Slim console, what's the point of a Slim console? Well, it's to save some money, to have a great gaming experience. And you know how you can save some money, have a great gaming experience? By visiting your friendly local Micro Center. There's so many amazing deals, especially this time of year. And on top of that, they have some incredibly cool new deals on racing simulator gear, which we may or may not be here this morning picking up some for main channel videos, so subscribe to the Austin Evans channel. You can get yourself a huge variety of racing simulator setups, including some bundles. The premium bundle, which we got a smooth $690 discount on. You can visit Micro Center to find all kinds of racing simulator setups, and even affordable ones too, if you don't want to build yourself a literal digital car on wheels. I think of PlayStations, I couldn't help but talk about our lovely sponsor, Micro Center, which of course the links will be in the description.
You know, it wasn't a good deal, which is gonna, I don't know if this is actually is or not.
You don't even know what you're looking at.
The PS4 Slim.
I would say that PS4 Slim was a pretty minor upgrade, because this kind of got lost in the shuffle because this was announced around the same time as the PS4 Pro. So if the PS4 Pro never existed, I think that would actually be a benefit to the Slim. But if we're ranking this on like the importance and like the viability of it long term and like kind of what it did, the PS4 Slim was a pretty weak sauce upgrade. I would say C.
C?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
3, 4, 5.
I'll give it C, and I won't go lower just because like the price on it ended up being pretty good. All right, you want to pick a next one?
I would love to. We've got, the fat PS3s. I would argue that the PS3, the fat PS3, was the most ambitious console of all time. The cell processor, the NVIDIA graphics, which were kind of mid, the fact that they brought Blu-ray, there was so much the PS3 did. And I will argue the PS3 was the biggest leap going from PS2 to PS3 as far as like the technical specifications and everything that we have ever seen and we will ever see. But then they died a lot and they were really expensive. And they kind of got worse over time because they removed like PS2 backwards compatibility hardware-wise, and they removed it software-wise.
One rule that we usually have is we can only have one S tier.
Agreed.
Because it cheapens it if they're all S tier. Are you saying that this is better than any other PlayStation?
I can't honestly say it's S tier.
I would say A tier.
Yeah.
Like, I would not argue with you a little bit. When people are looking for PS3 nowadays, they are looking for this one. They're not looking for a Slim.
True.
They're not looking for a Super Slim.
Yeah.
They're looking for this model right here. And I think that is worth an A tier.
Okay, I'm glad we agree on that. I actually thought you were going to fight me on it. Do you want to pick the next one?
All right.
Can you not pick another PS3?
That's what I'm trying.
I feel like we've done all of the like 2010 models.
PSP. I loved my PSP.
Same.
And then I broke it. It was the first time my family got a high definition TV.
Ooh, fancy.
And we had to put the seat down in the back of my car. And I crushed it in the seat, and it broke the door, and it never worked again.
No. Okay, can I give you some points why the PSP was great?
It was.
First of all, Sony's first handheld console.
Yeah.
So they came out swinging. This thing was way more powerful than the DS. Look at like Call of Duty on the DS versus what you could run on the PSP. Like it was a night and day difference. It was certainly flawed in the fact that it only had one really crappy analog stick. That was honestly the biggest downside to it. And much like some of the other consoles we're talking about here, later PSP models literally just got worse.
Sony had like a history of giving a big middle finger to when it came to media, like the memory stick duos, which were like triple the price of anything else, and proprietary. The PSP was both because it used the memory stick duos
and UMDs
and the UMDs. I'm going B with how bad it got later on. I know a lot of people are like, oh man, these are so good. Like, look how much I can homebrew this and like the Vita, whatever. If you have to jailbreak something to make it good, that doesn't mean it's good.
Whoa, that's a quote. Could we put that on a shirt? I feel bad though. Does a PSP really only be like?
I think it is.
Okay, all right. Matt, would you like to go next?
I just went.
Okay.
He's really good at
the
this.
PS4 Pro. I think this is an interesting one because this was the first time that we had really seen a proper Pro console. If we cast our mind back to the PS4, came out in 2013. It was a decent console, but it was a little bit of a weak upgrade in my opinion. It was very conservative. There was a lot of room for Sony to push the envelope, and with the GPU on this, they were able to actually hit 4K sort of specs on a lot of games, or at least do some upscaling to get there with some checkerboard renderings. And also, I'll give them the fact that the PS4 Pro launched at $400, the same price as the original PS4 was only a few years before.
I will give that one an A.
Wait, really? I was gonna say B, actually.
Whoa.
No, the PS4 Pro is pretty good. It's not that good.
Because you could go and get a PS4 Pro today, and it will serve you for a lot of games.
That is true. PS4 Pro for the people.
Yeah. A. The PS2.
If we do not put this in S tier, people will be angry.
I'm gonna jump ahead.
Okay.
Because my argument for S tier, PS2 Slim. PS2 is amazing. I don't think anyone can argue that.
Yeah.
Name a better looking console.
The PS2 Slim was
gorgeous.
Yes.
What you lost was the ability to do the hard drive, which, okay, I guess if you're a Final Fantasy fan, that sucks.
No one likes Final Fantasy. That's not a real game. But look at PS1 games, and now look at PS2 games. That jump in graphics was a singular moment in time. The PS2 also did bring online play. It also kept flawless backwards compatibility with PS1, including memory cards, controllers, everything. And to top it off, PS2 remains one of the best-selling game consoles of all time. They're making PS2 games in like 2012 or whatever. They just took what was a phenomenal console
and made it
smaller.
Better. I'm gonna do something we've never done before.
Okay, I'm pretty firm on this S tier.
All right, I'll give you S tier.
Oh no! Wait! What am I giving up?
I'll give you S tier. We're gonna do something we've never done before.
Oh my God! You're gonna try to put them both in S tier, aren't you?
We'll just go ahead and do that.
Yeah, as long as the PS2 is in actual S tier, and then the PS2 Slim is in lowercase S tier.
What?
That's
no,
fine.
it's a both. It's because it's so it's so small that it can sit on top of it easily.
So now that we have established the S tier, it's time for the gloves to come off.
All right. The PlayStation. Where would we be without the PlayStation?
We would be talking about Xboxes right now.
No, we would be talking about Nintendos.
The original PlayStation 1 did have a lot going for it because it was not only the first proper Sony console, but the PlayStation delivered proper 3D performance, the amount of consoles they sold, the amount of games that came out for this device. I would argue, while it's no S tier, it was good. A tier, right? How could this not be A tier?
Well,
no.
I gave you S tier because the real A tier comes from its predecessor.
What?
The Nintendo PlayStation.
That's not a real thing.
Where would we be without the Nintendo PlayStation? So the Nintendo PlayStation was a collaboration between Sony and Nintendo to add a CD drive to the NES. So I'll give you B tier for the PlayStation.
Are you trying to tell me that this prototype that never saw the light of day deserves A tier?
We're gonna put this above.
What are you talking? You're breaking the rules, Matt.
None of this exists without Big Boy up here.
So are you just trying to say that the next tier list we should put the first multi-celled organism is S tier? Because without that, no one would have made a game console? Like what? What are you doing over here, man? Like, come on.
I can't argue with your logic.
That's out of here. PlayStation A tier.
You pick then.
All right, I'm gonna pick The PlayStation Pocket. Okay, so this is a weird one. So this is kind of like the Dreamcast memory cards that had a little screen. You could play little like Tamagotchi-style games on it, but it also functioned as a quasi-memory card. The problem was that like it only shipped in Japan. I don't even know how much support it really had.
Sony looked at Dreamcast and said, "Hey, what if we did everything they're doing just worse?" And that was the PS Pocket. We need an F.
You know, actually, this is worse than PS5 Slim, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, this is gonna be like that one guy's like, the PS Pocket saved my grandpa from
his Gran Turismo save
of wolves, and we've passed it down our family from generations. That's
PS Vita. The duality of man was in full force for the PS Vita because on one hand, it was everything we loved about the PSP cranked up to 11. Dual analog sticks, which everyone wanted. Significantly more powerful. Still supported PSP games. However, it was too conservative because Sony basically said, oh, we'll make the PSP 2, and everyone had moved on to smartphones, and Nintendo had Mario and Pokemon and everything to keep people on the 3DS, whereas the Vita never really found its footing and sort of fizzled slowly out everywhere besides Japan. And even then, I don't think it was tremendously successful.
It's just primarily just a JRPG machine.
I mean, there's a lot of tech in this thing.
But like
it can't
just
be
because it has a lot of tech doesn't mean it was well executed. Is my point. Like
the problem is that we kind of screwed ourselves because we put PSP in B, and this is worse than the PSP. Even though it was objectively a better console, I think it's C. It makes me sad to say, but mostly because it failed and Sony stopped making handhelds because this didn't work.
Well.
What are you talking about? There's no other... What?
What if we just did this? I randomly picked this one up without looking. So here we have why we decided to do this tier list again, and that's because we have the PlayStation Portal.
Matt, can you actually turn that on and play a game for me real quick? I just want to show the audience what it looks like. Can you just play some Portal real quick?
No internet connection.
Oh, wow. It's almost like this is a really, really dumb console. This is, if you took your phone, duct taped a DualSense to the side, and only had the Remote Play app on it. Like, that's what all this thing does. It is literally useless without an internet connection and your personal PS5 online.
I know you've been hard against it. I'm like somewhere in the fence with it. I do think this is, again, the most medium thing ever.
Another thing is...
because it has uses.
I'm not a huge fan of cloud streaming and Remote Play and all these things. And even with Remote Play, which again, is literally... my PS5 is on the same Wi-Fi network. Even then, while it's a decent experience, I still see frame drops. If you want it as an accessory... you should live your best life. I'm not going to judge you, but the Portal is so weird.
I'm a little bit more defendant of it, but I will give you F. I don't recommend a whole lot of people buy this.
We have a lot more items left. You know what?
PS3 Super Slim.
F tier, F tier. It's time to go to the F tier.
It's not
so
good.
Bad. The Super Slim was like, hey, you know what? What if we take the Slim and make it out of the cheapest plastic ever? Get rid of the slot loading disk drive. And the door, you like kind of pushed it open. It felt like such a gross like mechanism.
Like crunches.
It is
F.
like, yeah, we don't need to talk about it. Okay, all right, we're just gonna move on. Give me something good, Matt. So this was a premium PS2, only sold in Japan. It was like something like $1,000. It was like absurdly expensive. Essentially what it was, essentially a PS2 with a hard drive, a TV tuner, and a DVD burner. So this is essentially meant to be like your home console everything box.
This was way ahead of its time, but it was so expensive.
It was, and also it ultimately was not very successful because at that point you probably buy a PS2 for like a third or a quarter of the price, whatever. And unfortunately, as we found out recently when we actually bought one of these for a video, most of these have crumbled through the eras. I would say D.
I'll give you D.
D?
Like if it was like $200 cheaper.
Next up we have the PlayStation TV. This PS TV, as the cool kids call it, was essentially a non-portable Vita. So imagine taking all the guts from a PlayStation Vita, putting a little set-top style box, and calling it a day. It also was really cheap. These things were $100.
It fixed a lot of things with the Vita.
Yeah, it did. But it was still kind of limited. D. I like it, but like I look at this, it was worse than the Vita.
It was, but it wasn't because it was so cheap.
The problem was there were not a lot of
$99.
No, but there weren't a lot of games for any of these things. Was the problem? Like you're buying this thing to play PSP games.
All right. Speaking of a JRPG machine,
go ahead.
the PS4.
PS4 is complicated because PS4 was the first generation of consoles that I covered professionally from start to finish. I certainly have some fond memories of, like, you know, being at E3 as they announced this thing and everything, but it was a very conservative console, right? Judging by the fact that they had to make a Pro version just 3 years later. PS4 still holds up okay today. It certainly was like the basis of all of this generation of gaming. The problem was that the hard drives were slow. It did not have a huge amount of GPU horsepower, had a terrible CPU. It just felt like Sony spent all this money and kind of had a bit of a disaster with the PS3. So when PS4 rolled around, they go, oh, let's just make like a really safe console so Microsoft doesn't scare us again. I think it's got to be the lowest of PS1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. In my opinion, this is the worst of the PlayStations.
You're going to get a big argument of like, no, the PlayStation 4 like sold so many, blah, blah. I don't think that was because the PS4 was so good. I think it's because of how bad
the Xbox
One was. I've said this in a few videos of like, during that time, Xbox One was so bad that, all right, well, a lot of people are going over to PlayStation, and this is before cross-platform existed for online. And so, okay, well, if I want to play games with my friends, what do my friends have? Oh, well, they got a PlayStation because the Xbox sucked. And then it just exponentially got bigger and bigger and bigger. I would argue C.
No, it's not that bad because that would be on the same level as PS4 Slim. It was less ambitious than the PS3, and we'll talk about PS5 in a second.
Yeah.
I feel pretty good about B on this one.
PSP Go.
So the PSP Go, if you're unfamiliar, was essentially the original PSP, but digital only with a cool little sliding form factor. This is back when like the Sidekick was really popular. Imagine, you know, when the Xbox Series S came out and everyone was like, oh, digital only. Yeah, Sony did that like 11 years beforehand. I want to put the PSP Go higher because I personally think it's cool. And it was very much ahead of its time.
Coolest thing ever. And it just like, it's kind of
yeah, the problem was it just wasn't great. C. I think C feels good. C feels good.
I feel like people are gonna get mad about putting in C, but last but certainly least.
Okay.
PlayStation 5.
We didn't do the PS5 yet?
There was a lot of unknowns with the PlayStation when we first did this tier list.
3 years ago, we put the PS5 in B tier. Now, that was before it had actually come out. I will say that it is aged quite well now that people can actually get their hands on it.
Yes.
PS5 is a well-rounded package. Not only solid graphics, it has good CPU, good SSD speed. It feels like it is kind of what I had hoped that the PS4 would be, which is just a well-rounded package. Whereas the PS4 felt like it was like, you know, the dude who like only works out one arm, the rest of his body's all kind of like scrawny because like he only cared about graphics and didn't care about his hard drive and his like CPU and stuff. It is a little bit expensive. I will say $500 just doesn't feel great, especially because they've done so much weirdness with the price kind of increasing over time and stuff. But that being said, 3 years into the life cycle, I would say the PS5 deserves a pretty solid A tier. Also, it feels like it's a good base for this generation for the next, 5 years or however long until we get another console. Like, I feel like it's aging well.
I said it in a couple of videos. I still say it right now. If they're looking the market for PlayStation 5 right now, this is the one they should get over the Slim. And that stands with me right now. There you have our tier list. Here's what everyone thinks.
Thank you very much for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. And don't forget that Micro Center has a brand new store opening in Charlotte in early 2024. And if you sign up to the link in the description, you can get yourself a free 128 gig flash drive when the store opens. Check it out. Again, the link in the description is where you're at. And let us know in the comments below why Matt's wrong about the PlayStation.
I think I was a lot tamer this time around, but you tell me.
I don't think you've been tame a day in your life, my dude.
Rawr.